Where do I begin when talking about the Sly Cooper franchise before getting around to the supposed possibility of a future fifth game, a possible television cartoon series, and its failed attempt at making a leap to the big screen? Is it safe to say these are all massively irrelevant topics to even bring attention to in mid-2018? Well, that's hard to say, and that's mainly because it's hard to even pinpoint where Sly Cooper as a video game franchise sits in the mind of gamers in terms of its popularity and place in pop culture. Each game was obviously popular enough to gain a sequel, 3 times over. The first and second game are marked as greatest hits titles for the PlayStation 2, and Sly Cooper at the time, which I guess technically means to this day, is considered a PlayStation mascot. Though you may find that bringing Sly Cooper into gaming discussion is usually a hit or miss, there are a lot of people who have no idea this series existed, which means you gotta figure even when these games were brand new and being advertised on television, many gamers breezed right past them. And whenever I'm talking about video games with people, I'm usually the only one to bring up Sly Cooper, and half the time, nobody knows what I'm talking about. So is Sly Cooper one of the greatest video game franchises of all time? Can you mention Sly Cooper in the same breath as Spyro, Crash, etc.? Or are these games like hidden gems of the PlayStation 2 era? Video game masterpieces that were overlooked, not received as intended by advertisement, but if you come across it, you know it's a good game. But to you, that means it just kind of came out of nowhere. Like, where the fuck did this come from? It's so damn good, why haven't I heard about it before? I can't answer any of this, but what I can see is a clear acknowledgement that at the very least, the first 2 games are critically acclaimed and left enough of an impact for people to clearly see its storytelling potential being strong enough to carry a television series or a movie or something of that nature. And I see a gaming community broken into 3 sectors in regards to Sly Cooper: a cult fan base of diehards, people who have played the games and acknowledge how good they are but just leave it at that, and the remainder of the gaming community who don't know about Sly or simply didn't give a fuck in the early 2000s and don't give a fuck now. It just doesn't grab their attention. So this is for the diehards, specifically those who are hellbent on seeing the series continue with a 5th game. It's clear to me that Thieves in Time worked but wasn't a smashing success, so it's safe to assume a 5th game would have as mild of an impact, and I see a gaming community that could really care less. And this is all the more reason Thieves in Time should have really catered to the diehards and done what successful movie franchises do when pulling off this kind of sequel. And I'm talking about a sequel that comes out years after the last film and ages with its viewers. So in this case, Sly Cooper should have aged with its players. The kids that played the originals are now adults. So where's the relatability with the 4th game when it falls in the hands of developers who clearly don't understand the depth that this story had and seem to have looked at it from a general outside perspective, like, here we have animals with human-like characteristics, which means let's just do some cutesy dumb shit and cater to an audience seemingly younger than the kids that probably played the originals? I'm not even being a fanboy geek, I'm just being a fucking realistic adult analyzing a story, just breezing through a story, and noticing that we have a character who watched his parents murdered in front of him and spent most of his early adulthood tracking down the people who killed his father, world-famous criminals, avenging his family and stealing back his family legacy. Can he have some depth after being through all that shit? Why is he portrayed as a fucking goofball? I understand he's a cartoon raccoon, but within this fantasy realm, he still has the morals and feelings of a fucking human. Can he have something to say other than, "Hey, Carmelita"? As a player, and during the cutscenes, a viewer, I was completely disengaged when facing villains who aren't the least bit intimidating, and really only playing a game that has the layout and gameplay style of the originals down, but neglects everything else that makes a Sly Cooper game. From my perspective, everything that hurts the series, and especially wrecked Thieves in Time, stems from the aspects of these games that cater to the younger audience, meaning Sly Cooper is partly badass as all fuck, and then partly lighthearted, which didn't really serve as a negative in the original series, but the 4th installment highlighted the lighthearted geared towards kids aspect, and neglected to sustain the depth and grittiness that balanced everything out. It even pushed the fantasy element over the top. I understand it's a fantasy world as it is, but time travel? It had to be that fantasy? Like, why don't we go into space next? You can call me a hater, but I'm talking about the difference between playing a Sly Cooper and feeling like a thief, and playing a Sly Cooper and feeling like a goofball who steals shit. But now we get around to the idea of a film that didn't really work, talk of a television series, and a 5th game. All of it seems very unlikely to happen, but if it were to, they can't take this goofball approach. It doesn't need to be M-rated, but it can't be all entirely too E-rated, if that makes sense. My thing is this, I don't think there is enough interest for any developer to take on a Sly 5, but let's say they did. I would look at it as a makeup sequel. It would have to perform in the same way that a makeup sequel performs. What is a makeup sequel? Take the new Halloween that's on its way, for example, which literally pretends the others never happened. Take Rocky Balboa or Creed, artistic, meaningful films that followed up Rocky IV, which was like a silly feature-length action montage. You see what I'm saying? Any series is allowed to have a weak sequel as long as they bounce back. And the way for Sly Cooper to bounce back is to deliver a game that makes you feel like a thief once again, and acknowledges that Sly Cooper should be, at this point, older, wiser, and he should carry the weight of the story we know he lived through. We played through it. Anyway, I'm Savo. I'm not a hater. I'm a diehard fan, and that's just my food for thought.